Hi, I'm Peter Burrell, the author of Marriage by the Book. I was recently on a podcast called Better Than Not, where we discussed that book and my book Free of Judgment. Here's some clips. We interpret like creationists to be some sort of like us leaving the garden was a punishment as
Right.
opposed to a protection. You know, that it even says that lest he put forth his hand and eat from the tree of life and live forever in that state. That's why he was put out. It wasn't a punishment. Get out of the garden. You don't deserve it anymore. And I can't have you living forever like this. This is a protection, and a guard was put around the tree of life. So whether you see this thing as literal, like a lot of Christians and myself do, or you see it even as an allegory,
Yes.
or some sort of like Jordan Peterson probably would do, you're drawing a meta narrative out of this
Yes.
super narrative.
Yes.
So if you're going to do it that way, then it doesn't matter. It's a wonderful picture. So to give you an idea, this is 99 point something % of all Christians have never seen the scripture this way. And if you get horrible comments, I apologize, but I just ask people to please open your eyes, ask God to explain it to you, and read it for what it really is. This is, I've broken it down through the Hebrew, through everything through it. I've taught this to pastors, and they're like, why wasn't I taught this in Bible school? Why wasn't I taught this in seminary? This changes everything. I've taught this to couples that have been married for 20 years, and they're like, yeah, this changes everything. And it's just give you an idea. I just opened up while we were talking there, and I apologize for taking my eyes off the screen, but
It's okay.
just read from Genesis 1:27, just so I get it literally for you. And I'll read out of King James, so even the King James only people
Okay.
don't argue with me that it's some made-up translation. It's because it's literal in that, and I could read it out of the literal Hebrew as well.
Right.
I wouldn't pronounce it very well, but I still could read it. So it says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them, and he blessed them, etc. So let me ask you, it says, God created man in his own image, male and female created he them.
Yes.
So if I was to ask any Christian, pretty well, who did God create first, the male or the female? What would they answer?
Male.
Well, that's not what we just read. Right?
I know, but that's
but we're seeing, but that's what they say, right?
Absolutely.
He said, in the image of God created him singular, male and female created he them.
Yes.
Goes on to say, in the day that they were created. So this isn't a summary of the whole thing.
No.
In the day they were created he them, male and female. The male and female uses the word it's nakar or zakar and nekabar. It's the two Hebrew words, and it literally means the male sex and the female sex. So God creates, and Adam, by the way, isn't his name. Adam's just a Hebrew word that means man. You could say human, or
Yes,
that's just their word for man, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So God creates an individual, man, one, singular, but with two sexes, male and female. Nakar, Zakapar, or Zakar, Nakar. I got to remember these right. And then we go on to do the rest of the creation story, and we get into it in chapter 2. He looks and he says, it's not good that Adam or man is alone. I'll make a help meet for him.
Yes.
So he puts man to sleep, and he takes out of man, and it's clear to say nothing else was used in the creation of this woman.
Yep.
Nothing. She was called woman because she came out of man. Nothing else was added. So we're starting with man with 2. We're taking 1 away, and now we're left. So let me ask you, the one that's left, is he the same as the one before he went to sleep? No. He's missing something.
Yes.
Right? He's missing, the female has been taken out of him, and he's left with just the male. Now we go on to call this something different in the Hebrew. After he wakes up, he's called Iysh, she's called Ishshah, male, and that's more of the gender, male, female, as opposed to the hardline sex, male, female. He defines in the beginning, Zakar and Nakabars was the actual sex, male and female, and now he's saying he's using the roles of male and female. So when Iysh wakes up, he's presented Ishshah, and his reaction is, this is part of me. This came out of me. I can't live without this. Yeah. I know what it was like to have this. I don't have it anymore. And then Moses, who's writing this, says this is the reason why men leave their mothers and fathers, and they have to cleave, and they will cleave to their wives. Adam doesn't say it. Adam didn't know what a mother and father was, and there was no mother and father at this point. So you have Moses who's writing this. So he says, for this reason, and that's Adam's reaction is, I can't live without this perspective. I had the perspective of both the male and the female. Now I'm stuck with just a male perspective. I no longer have the female perspective. But look, there it is. And he goes, I have to have this. And Moses says, that's why men will leave their mothers and fathers. Now, that's Adam's actions. That's Moses speaking. Let's go to Jesus if you want a third reference, although you can establish it with two. But it says, let every word be established with two or three references, right? With every two or three witnesses, excuse me. Jesus is being confronted with the issue of divorce by the Pharisees who are trying to trip him up.
Yep.
And he said, Moses allowed us to write a bill of divorce so we could send our wives away. He says, what do you say? And he says, well, Moses only did that because your hearts were hardened to the truth. He says, don't you know that from the beginning, God made them in the beginning, God made them male and female. For this reason, men leave their mothers and fathers and cleave to them. And he recites the same story. So he's giving examples from the exact same creation story. God made it as one. And again, you can take it as a metaphor or an allegory.
It still works.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful picture.
Yes.
And I thought, well, that kind of changes everything, because honestly, if you really do think that men were created first, as you and I are, and then the woman was sort of like an afterthought or an add-on, or women will say, yeah, we finally got it right. We have to make these jokes. There's this competitiveness between us. There's these two creations. Well, we'll always, whether we do it consciously, and I don't think a lot of us do as Christians, I think we're sincere in our beliefs, but subconsciously, you can't help but thinking that you're superior. You were the first. You were made in the image of God. She was not. She came out of you.
Yeah.
But you and her were made in the image of God. You were made together in the image of God. God separated, he split the atom, and it's been explosive ever since. But he literally split Adam and into two, Iysh and Ishshah. And now in order for this to work, they have to be together, and they have to be completely open and with each other, like he says, naked, totally exposed, and not ashamed. That means they have to bring forth everything. Trust. And we've seen this where, you can see in the world where they'll do a marriage and they're competing and they're fighting, or you'll see in the church where we've always taught it this way, where he's the head and she submits, and she's demure, and she's, like I had my wife's mother and father, lovely Christian couple, very religious. And he would just hold his hand up and she would stop speaking and put her head down. And she thought she was being dutiful as a wonderful Christian woman. And a lot of women do it. But the reality is she's not doing her part as a Christian woman, because she's not presenting Ishshah's perspective. She's not allowing Adam to function. Adam is functioning now with just Iysh. It's kind of like, I asked God once to explain this to me, how this works. And I've taught this for decades. I've even heard other people say it now. But he explained it to me like we had gone to a 3D movie. Back in those days, there used to be different color glasses. Remember, one color, one was the other. And he said, it's just the way the 3D movie works. And you understand how they're made? They actually see one scene and they shoot it from two different perspectives, right? So you're sounding from already like you can see a parallel here. Yeah, one thing takes place and you see it from two different perspectives. Absolutely. But now they give you a special pair of glasses, and they used to use different tints, but now it's just done with polarization. But it's the same effect. And they divide them just slightly larger than normal. And the way it works is it forces your left eye to focus on the left picture and your right eye to focus on the right picture. Yeah. Your brain thinks they're both true. Yes, so your brain fills in the difference, and it's not even there. That's how marriage is supposed to work. Iysh has one perspective. Ishshah has another perspective. When you accept they're both true, they're not competing. They're both true, even though they're different. It's like you can put your finger a few inches in front of your nose, close one eye, and it's on the left side. Close the other eye, it jumps to the right side. Well, which one is it? Is it on your left side or your right side? Well, they're both true, but they're only both true when you look with both eyes. And you accept that they're both true. And I think what we've done is we've sort of forced women to, no, you have to see it the way the left eye sees it. Yes. In the Christendom. And in the world, we'll we'll compromise. We'll do it right eye this time, left eye next time. We'll have it your way this time. We'll do it your way the next time. That's like going to a 3D movie with one eye closed. You're not going to get the picture.
Well, to your point, Peter, getting the picture, like this, that's a great metaphor. I've never heard this before. Like it is such because, and part of the whole concept of this 3D movie is you get a better picture, Like,
Does it
you
change
get
your frame of reference?
oh, hugely. Like it's
Yeah, that's
staggering,
right.
right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's a great way of really looking at it. I remember hearing this a little bit, not the 3D. I love this the metaphor. The 3D glasses is an amazing one because
Yeah,
if you only look with one eye, to your point,
yeah.
you can't see the beauty of the picture anymore. Like it's gone.
No,
Like
you
it doesn't
can't.
even
You
really make
can't.
sense. And so when you put them in that frame, it's very cool. But I think it was Joseph Campbell I heard say this, but when a marriage takes place, you no longer are, I'm no longer specifically Doug Gardam. I'm now Doug and Laura Gardam. And likewise,
Hmm.
Laura is Laura and Doug Gardam. And now you have to kind of think in a taking your 3D example as a perfect
Hmm.
one to get your picture, like to see your picture in the 3D format, you have to be as one, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's so is this part of your free
I
of
teach this in the
judgment book?
book. No, this is in the marriage book. I teach
Okay,
this part in the
okay.
marriage book. Yeah, and it's the opening thing to me, and I start off with an understanding of how this is going to make you feel when you read this. So that's to do because it's not it's
Yeah.
going to be different and it's not going to feel that good to you if you've always thought about the other way, and we're quite religious about the other way. We have a dogma built up in us about something. It's
Oh,
going to
yes.
challenge that. Hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you've got a question, post it or email me. There's a link below.